Stringer, tell us about Scott and Mark. What was that like? I mean, was Scott born in California or Utah?
All our kids were born in California. All the children were born there. Scott was the first.
Were there, how many houses were on the block that because Santa Rosa was small, wasn't it, when you lived there?
When we moved to Santa Rosa, it's 35,000 people. Now it's over 200,000. So we went from a small community to a large metropolis.
So Scott was born at Memorial Hospital, or?
He was born at Warwick, and had him, and a couple years later we had Mark.
Well, what was that like with Scott? All of a sudden now you have a boy, and he's
blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy, and just bouncy around, real happy and real pleasant, extremely gifted and handsome for his age. We also got compliments on even strangers. They stop and say how handsome he was for a little boy, blue-eyed. And he was real friendly, and my wife would take him into the grocery store, and he'd be talking to the people in line and asking why they're buying this and why they're buying that. One day he was in line, told the lady that her wig was ugly or something like that.
Her wig didn't look too good.
Her wig didn't look too good. So yeah, he was our challenge about children. First one, and he had a real what do you call it, rebel type attitude. It wasn't a vicious attitude, but it was one that wanted to try everything himself. And so I used to take him to church on Sunday. LDS Church or Mormon Church had an early seminary class with the kids in those days, and we'd take them to church at 7 o'clock. And 8:30 or 8:30, I'd go back and pick them up. So we started getting calls from churches. Where's Scott on Sunday? Oh, I dropped them off there. Should be there. So one Sunday I pulled up. Okay, Scott, I'll see you. Dropped him off. He runs into the church. So I spin my car around, go around the other door, front door. And here he comes out of the front door. He's running like crazy. Him and about 5 of his buddies. They're going over to have coffee and donuts. Oh, gee. So, and we had Mark. Mark was he's quiet, but yeah, he's very intelligent. He seemed to be a very generous and real thoughtful of people's feelings. And he always fought for the underdog when he was in Strawberry School. I guess, was that a grade school or not? Or no, that was a Strawberry there. Anyway, girls used to have it was funny, the girls used to, he had this down jacket, the sleeveless down jacket, and they were real popular. And then he had a green one. Anyway, the girls would come to school and he'd go to have his lunch and be sitting out there, and they all crowd around him. People had to sit there and touch him, put their hand on his shirt and hang on to him. The girls did. And so they made a list of what girl would wear a shirt, or his jacket. So they had this list of girls.
It was Julie. She was the #1, she was the best looking girl. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Mark would, that's right. He had that down jacket from hockey. Wasn't it hockey, the team?
I don't remember what it was for. I think it's just a regular plain down jacket.
Because we used to play Happy Days, and he was the Fonz.
Oh, yeah.
And the girl that played Fonzie's girlfriend, like Pinky Tuscadero or whatever, was this girl Julie that was the most popular. And so Mark and her had no choice but to be a couple because...
Oh, yeah. But anyway, he's always been for the underdog, and he's always thoughtful of other people's feelings.
How did you guys know about the jacket and the girls? If that happened,
the word gets back to the parents.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, usually through the teachers. They'd be laughing. They'd say, we go to the teachers' conference, and then they'd start telling about Mark and all the girls out there taking his name on our list they made, who can wear the jacket what day. So We all thought that was kind of funny. Then we had Danny. Danny was just, he was he still is, a very happy person. And he had a little rebellion and in him, but he was just, he loved to play soccer like Mark. And he was good. One day I took him up to Windsor to play soccer, and he went out, started playing, and about 5 minutes after the game started, I looked out in the field and it was a Mexican team, and this one kid took a swing at Dan, so Dan decked him, and I see the red flag come out and point him off the field, so he came back. I said, that was a short game for you. Yeah, he said, this guy started giving me crap and talking racial stuff to me, so I decked him. I said, okay, let's go home. And we went home, but he was always there when I needed him for anything. A lot of the other kids were doing different things. Like,
well, what do you mean by that? Because when I saw Danny, I was so impressed by how responsible he was, even as a kid. Like, he was more responsible than any of us. I mean, more responsible than any of Scott's friends, Mark's friends, my friends.
Oh, yeah. He was the kid that if I needed him to do anything or go with me on a trip, he would drop what he was doing in a second to go with me.
Yeah, well, you would say something like, let's clean the garage. And that garage was so crazy, Danny would like step on mice. He would kill mice in his bare feet. And that would happen, and we would leave. Mark and I would be like, oh, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, and Scott was the same. But Danny would stay. And then we'd come back later on the night after the sun went down, and Danny was still working on the garage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We had a food storage where we had wheat in plastic containers, and we had so many so high the bottom was busted in the back. All the damn fuel mice up there in Bennett Valley decided to go to my house to eat. So we had a heck of a problem with fuel mice for a while until we finally got rid of them.
But even then, Danny was like, I'm gonna stay home. And we couldn't understand why, but he just loved being around you and hanging out.
Yeah. We used to, one time I had to go down to Fresno to a court thing, and I said, Dan, would you like to go down to Fresno with me? I said, I don't know what we'll do, but he said, oh, sure, Dad. Well, we jumped in the car, and that weekend drove down to Fresno on a Sunday. No, that was on a Friday. And got there, and he was, I said, if you got plans, you don't have to go. I can go by myself. Oh, no, he said, I'll go with you. I'll cancel my plans. So he was always there for me. Other boys were there for me, too, but Dan seemed to make more of an effort, to help me out. And we were talking the other day, my wife and I, about the boys, Carrie, and how all of them seem to be really responsible adults. And be real grounded, like you say, in themselves. And they didn't have to put on a show for anybody. And what they said is what they meant. You didn't have to try to double read them. And they have a sense of themselves. One thing we all said to them when they were younger is, you're an Enger. You can do anything you want to. And so every time they would come up against something in life, it would take a little time to think about. They'd think about that saying, that, I'm an Enger, I can do it. And it gave me roots in their life, roots. And so as they got older, they can fall back on the little things that we tried to teach them and do things with them, things like that. And,
I'm curious, years and years ago, I think I came back from Europe and I ran into this kid. He started screaming at me from his car, hey, Chi. And I didn't even want to turn around. And it was Danny. And I couldn't recognize him. I just did not. He didn't look like anybody familiar I knew because I just knew little Danny Enger. And now he's over 6 feet. He got out, and then as soon as he smiled and started talking, I was like, oh my gosh, Danny Enger. And he invited me to a barbecue, and it was Scott's birthday. And he pulled out all these pictures of the family. And I think you guys had a swing set and a big backyard. And I could see Jason playing and Carrie playing, and he was bragging about Jason and Carrie. And then, you know, we had this barbecue, and Scott was hilarious, and it was his birthday, and there were all these people. And Danny walked me back to the car, and he even said something to me, like he said, like, yeah, I really miss my parents, and they're all in Utah, and my family's in Utah, but I really want to be close to Scott right now. I just really want to be here for Scott because I don't want him to be all alone in Santa Rosa. And I thought, oh, shit, like, oh my gosh, Danny, you know, like, and that's just the way Danny was. Danny was like, there's no way that Scott's going to be this far away from
our whole family's that way, and we're there for each other and help each other out. We try to encourage each other, you know, in life, and we don't condemn each other. Instead, we try to help each other grow a little in life.
What was Jason like? Because he was just so young. I mean, I remember him playing with Mike, and that's it.
Well,
and then Seth.
There was a little boy in between Jason and Danny.
Really?
Yeah, and 9 months along, almost 9 months along. The doctor called me at the hospital. That morning, I was, you know, getting up, and Judy is in the shower and saying, "Oh, what a beautiful morning! What a beautiful day!" Because she thought she was going to might have twins. And so, anyway, the doctor checked her a few days before that, and so I was to work in Petaluma, and the phone rang. It was a doctor, or it was a nurse. He says, "Don, your wife's coming in at 3 o'clock. We want you here because you're not going to be able to keep the baby." He had like a spina bifida, when the brain didn't close, the skull. And the reason she was so big, all the fluid in the baby's brain went into her body. She was just stretched to like thin paper. And he bought her a waterbed to help her out. Anyway, we went to the doctor, or I went to the doctor that afternoon, and it was in the winter time. So around 3 o'clock it started getting dark. And I was sitting there, and they put me in a room. I sat standing there looking out the window, and I seen Judy pull in. And then I could hear her talking to the nurses, real happy and stuff like that. The doctor says, "Well, what we're going to do is we're putting you in this room, Don, and when Carrie can go take her in the other room. Then we'll come back and get you. You'll have to tell her that we're going to lose the baby." So I said, "Okay." So I heard her walk by just singing and laughing with the nurses and the doctor and stuff. Pretty soon I heard him put her in the room right next to me, and I heard the door close. Pretty soon my door opened. The doctor said, "Come on, let's get it over with." So I opened the door, and she's sitting there, and as soon as I came to the door, she knew something was wrong. I said, "I'm sorry." I said, "Judy, we're not going to be able to keep the baby." I said, "It has problems, and it's going to probably be stillborn." And I was concerned about that, and the doctor says, "Well," he says, "we can set you up to take the baby out tomorrow." I said, "Well, I tell you what," I said, "give us the weekend until Monday." This is Friday. Until Monday to decide on whether we want to have an abortion. I said, "I really don't believe in abortions, but in this case, let's go home and decide about it." Well, the next Saturday, that morning, she started labor, and I told the doctors I want to go and pray about it. So that next morning, Saturday, she started a natural, normal labor, and we ran her at the hospital, and they got me all in my gown and hat and stuff like that, and they took her in for delivery. And I was waiting, and pretty soon they called me to come in to deliver him. The baby was born. delivered. My concern was the baby is complete except for the skull didn't close. My concern was could the vocal cords make the baby cry or whatever. And the doctor said, there's a possibility. I said, well, the only way we can stop that, I hope it doesn't work. Or put your hand over his mouth or something, it means he doesn't have a brain. And so anyway, they delivered the baby, and neither one has ever seen the child itself. And they came and got me, and as I walked into the delivery room, in the operating room, you've never been to a temple setting in the LDS temple where it's so peaceful and beautiful, and you feel you're right there next to God. When I walked through that delivery room door, that whole operating room had the light and the glow about it that you've seen in the temple. And it was a very spiritual experience for me because I felt as I was in the temple and everything was peaceful, everything was okay, Judy would be okay, everything was to be fine with her family. That the baby didn't cry out and things like that. So the doctor later on seemed to be impressed the way Judy and I held up under this type of a condition. That we weren't screaming, yelling, and cussing God out, and it's his fault, but that we accepted it for what it really was, and knew that it'd be good for the baby, the best of it is so the baby didn't live. He was a little boy, and then the doctor told Judy that she could never have any more children. Well, we both didn't feel good about that, so we went and had another baby, and that was Jason.
So this is after the doctor said you could never have children again?
He didn't want us to have any more. And we said, well, we kind of disagree, but we'll think about it. And then we had Jason. Jason up on it.
If you had another child, would it have been unhealthy for Judy? Is that why?
Possibly, or it could be another spina bifida malfunction, in the genes somehow. And so then we, I don't know, how much later do we have Jason? 4 or 5 years?
About 3 years.
3 years? Anyway, Jason came along. And this is the first time I was in a delivery room.